Hello everyone. Today I am going to be ranking how good I thought the games on the Dread X collection were, from worst to best. Now I'm not saying any of these were bad, they were all made in a very short period of time and are more like demos. I don't hate any of them, this is just a list of my least to most favorite. Starting off with my least favorite of the bunch is Carthank. Carthank is a very difficult game, and not in a fun way. I had no idea what to do to even get the main gameplay started. The game just loads you into the middle of some temple from an ancient civilization that you're investigating for research. The game doesn't tell you how to proceed any further than this first room. I wandered aimlessly for about 10 minutes and almost gave up when I realized how to unlock the doors, using this weird camera tripod thing that lights your way. Anyways, after opening a door, there's nothing else to do but venture forward into the new room. Inside are platforms you have to jump on to get across to the other side to avoid falling to your death. On the other side of this room, you collect a piece of a mummy after solving a short puzzle. After this, you go back to the main room and encounter the only enemy you will find in this game. They will chase you relentlessly, and you have no option to fight, and you can only run from them. The first time I saw them, it was scary, but after that, they were just an annoyance. The next room you go into has a chase scene where you run from a boulder while jumping over cliffs and dodging obstacles. To narrowly avoid being crushed, you hop into a small hole in the wall ahead and find a much bigger room with another piece of the mummy. Next stop that we have to go to is a room where you run from a ton of monsters and run up a flight of stairs with a few tricky jumps near the end to trip you up to get another piece of the mummy. Now, the final room you go through is why I have this game ranked so low. I can forgive the beginning being difficult to figure out because of the lack of a tutorial, but the final part of the game is just so difficult and drags out for so long it is ridiculous. You have to take your time going through all of these difficult traps and swinging axes and finding safe places to stand, but this segment goes on way too long, and with no checkpoints, you have to start over every time you die from the start. Every time I got to the end of a hallway, I was excited, thinking I was done, only to go around the corner and see there was another long hallway full of spiky traps and swinging axes. The ending wasn't even that good either. Throughout the game, your spacesuit reminds you of how much air you have, and at the end, you just suffocate to death right after you find some type of ancient book. That is the end of the game. The whole mission you went on was for nothing. Next on my list is Mr. Bucket Told Me To. This one is interesting but too repetitive for my liking. In this game, you play as a guy who's been stranded on an island all by themselves and have gone a little crazy and started to think inanimate objects are able to talk. Each day, you wake up and have to grab your 3 friends, which are just tools with faces drawn on them, and use them to get food and water for yourself. And then at the end of the day, you go back to sleep and wake up in the middle of the night and you see a fire far off in the distance. When you get there, you see all your tools already there waiting for you, along with a new friend, a bucket. The bucket tells you have to sacrifice one of your tools/friends by throwing them into the fire. You do this, and you wake up the next day with one less tool to use, making the next day far more difficult to manage your hunger and thirst. The reason I don't like this one too much is, besides the repetitiveness, the game just isn't that scary. I mean, the villain is literally just a bucket that talks to you, and that's not even accurate because it only talks because your character has completely lost his grip on reality. The ending is really weird too, but I don't want to spoil it. It's probably one of the few good things about the experience. and even then it's only good because of how strange it is. There are some interesting dialogue from the characters. The game just doesn't have that much going for it besides that. After the second time of having to go walk to the fire that you see off in the distance, you just get tired of doing it. Now this next game is a bit similar to the last one I talked about, but it has a bit more variety in what you're dealing with. This game is called Rotgut. It is a walking sim about you finding some party that's happening out near the woods by your town. I got a bit sidetracked the first time playing and wandered too far into the woods and completely missed what I was supposed to find. I then decided walking off the edge was my best option because there wasn't anything else in the woods, only to find out that was not what you're supposed to do, and I fell into the void and got the turnaround just in time to see where I was supposed to go through the floor. With this new information in mind, I actually got to find where I was supposed to go this time. On my second attempt, I finally made it to the party, which was inside some giant tunnel. At the entrance, there were a lot of weird people partying and dancing, but since no one seemed too interested in talking to me, I decided to go further into these tunnels. The rest of the game is pretty much just you holding W on the keyboard, and looking at all the weird graffiti on the walls in silence with no one else at all. Well, besides this one lady just laying on the floor here, but she doesn't even do anything. Eventually, I turn and see off in the distance that there is someone following me. I turn back around and start going further into the tunnels, too scared to let whatever's behind me catch up. Eventually, I get to the end of the tunnel, which is pretty disappointing, but at the same time scary, because it's a dead end. But I also realize I have to turn around and go back from where I came from, walking towards the monster that was following me earlier. Reluctantly, I go back and get a closer look, and just when I get next to him and think it's game over, he just stops right by you. I then realize he's not a threat at all and is just programmed to follow you through the tunnel. I then leave him in the dust and go back to the entrance of the tunnel. And that is it. The game has pretty much no gameplay, it's just a walking sim. The only reason I have it ranked higher than Mr. Bucket told me to is because it looks nicer and wasn't as repetitive in what I'm looking at on my playthrough. Now we're on to the game Don't Go Out. This one was real simple, but very challenging. You have to make it inside the house before the encroaching darkness covers up everything, all while avoiding the monsters and fighting off the dark with torches. You have different cards that you may play that have various effects, such as lighting up the area around you, drawing more cards or having more actions, as well as summoning another character that also has their own set of cards that they can play. You have to make sure you don't let all your characters die though, or it's game over. Now, it's not really that spooky of a game, but I do enjoy the art style of it, and it does make for a good puzzle game that will take you a few attempts to get to the end. Hand of Doom is a game where you play as a wizard, and it is all about learning new spells that you can cast to help you explore this cemetery and a couple dungeons. The gameplay is pretty repetitive, but shakes things up by introducing new spells to use, such as a spell to light torches in the dungeon, or one that banishes ghosts, and as well as one that opens up doors for you. The art style is very nice and gives a good atmosphere and has a few scary moments. The game also is one of the only games in this collection which has voice acting, which adds to the spookiness. Just listen to these voices.
You fool. You thought you were going to banish me?
I have this game ranked so high mostly because it excels at setting the atmosphere and makes sure to keep things from getting too repetitive by giving you new spells right when your old spell is starting to get old.
Wallow on blood, remember. Tal, Fort, if.
Now we are halfway through the list, and these next 5 are actually really good, and I don't have anything really negative to say about them at all. Next up is the game Shatter. This one was really cool and had some really interesting world building. It takes place in a futuristic London where hackers seem to run everything. They make everyone see these creepy bugs that float around everywhere because everyone is connected on some type of futuristic VR internet type device, and the hackers make them see it. You don't see them until you connect yourself to the internet with the help of a stranger you run into at the start of the game. There's not much gameplay to explain for this one, but I really like the overall vibe it has going on. The ending is interesting too, with you collecting a larva for the leader of the flies so that they can have a new leader. And it had a very interesting chase section at the end that was pretty creepy. I hope this actually gets finished and becomes a full game because, like I said earlier, the plot seemed really unique, and it had my attention the whole time. For number 4, we have The Pony Factory. This game was so much fun. It reminded me of Doom with all the demon killing you do in this game. The enemy variety was a little bit lacking though, but what they did have in this game were very creepy. With how fast they go and the shrieking they do whenever they spot you makes this a very tense game. The flashlight was also a very good addition to this game as well, making fights more tense because you don't use the flashlight while shooting, so you have to pick and choose whether you have light or a means to defend yourself. The ending was pretty difficult, with you having to escape from the center of the factory that you just fought your way towards and leave through the way that you entered, tearing through anything that stands in your way. The only complaint I have with this game is that there's no weapon variety. You just get this machine gun at the start of the game for the whole time. And while I did get the job done, I feel like another gun or two would have made this a lot more exciting of an experience. We are at the top 3 of my personal favorite games in this collection now, and I just want to remind you to subscribe if you like this video before we get to the best games here. For number 3, we have Summer Night. This game was one of the scariest games in the collection. You don't really see anything too scary, but the game keeps you on edge with the brilliant sound design. Playing with headphones is highly recommended so you can get the most out of the experience. In this game, you play a video game on a handheld device while chilling in your bed during the middle of the night. Your house starts out silent, but as you play through the night, you start to hear creaking noises and shuffling, as well as random thumps throughout the house. Along with the slow introduction of noises throughout the night, you also start to have glitches that happen on the game you are playing that look very creepy, that are also very startling to hear with how loud they are from an otherwise pretty quiet game. The game ends abruptly when you run out of battery, and you are tasked with going to find new batteries to replace in your system so you can game on once more. But you soon find out you are not alone, and the game ends with this creepy monster walking into you that you can't escape from. The Pay Is Nice was a very slow-paced game, but did a good job building tension. It starts with you, a scientist, getting ready for their shift at the lab. You then have to walk down a creepy hallway that is only partially lit up in front of you, and you have to stay in the light as the lights behind you start to turn off one by one. Narrowly making it into your lab, you begin to inspect your surroundings, including a wall filled with creepy masks and a room full of different creatures and fish tanks. There is then a weird moment where your character is hallucinating and sees lots of disturbing things such as blood everywhere and your masks moving around the room on their own. But this scientist is a Chad and shrugs everything off and gets right back to work afterwards. Employee of the Year award material right there. what is this scientist researching? New types of drugs. This involves a puzzle for you to work on that I couldn't solve and had to look up online because I don't do math. I'm playing a video game, not learning math at school. And then it turns out solving the puzzle doesn't even change the ending because one of your test subjects escapes containment anyways at the end of the game, whether you finish the puzzle or not. For number 1, my favorite game in the collection is Outsiders. This game right here was the whole reason I made this list. It was by far the scariest game and had the most replayability as well. This game starts with you waking up abruptly in your bed to an alarm that tells you you must escape. Your windows and front doors are all locked, so you search the house for different keys that are randomly placed throughout the house each time you play. You have a time limit to find everything before a strange force comes into the house to kill you. There are 5 switches you have to find throughout the house to escape from your prison. These switches all do something different, such as flipping on and off the time of day, or turning off and on the thunderstorm, or the most important one, opening up your escape route. These switches that control everything give you hints that something is not right with the house that you are in, but these questions raised by these magic switches are answered at the end of the game after you escape from the house. Spoilers ahead, so skip ahead if you don't want to know the ending. Upon escaping the house, you discover that the house was a set for a show, which is already strange, but stranger than that is the fact that it wasn't just any normal show. It was a show that was ran by aliens for their entertainment. The ending of the game is pretty funny, but it also kind of ruins the spookiness the game had going on.
298 of season 894 of The Human Show.
One of the scarier moments in the game has you going into the attic, where there are a lot of mannequins that move around when you're not looking at them, and they try to stop you from reaching your destination. Another scene that was scary in this game is when you go through the backyard through a corn maze that has a unknown entity that attacks you that you can't even get a good look at because of the corn. To get through this maze in your backyard, you have to follow the blood trails to get to a shed that you need to at least visit once each time you play to get a key item. The game also gives you more and more hints whenever you die, with different messages written on the walls to guide you to the right path. This game alone makes the purchase of the Dread X collection worth it. It was a lot of fun, and it was very scary. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you liked this video, and leave a comment on which game you thought was the scariest in this collection.